My brother won a $3 million lottery and called me a burden. Now I'm rich. I don't need a freeloader like you in my life. He sneered. I walked away silently, then sued him. In court, when I proved half that $3 million was mine because of my years of support, my brother's smirk faded. Stunned, the judge banged the gavel. Case closed. I'm Mark, 38, and I used to think family was everything. My younger brother Jake and I grew up tight. 2 kids in a dusty trailer park, dreaming of something bigger. I was the steady one, the guy who traded dreams for a paycheck swinging hammers on construction sites. Jake? He was the wild card, always chasing the next big idea, each one flopping harder than the last. For years, I propped him up. $500 for rent here, $1,000 for some surefire business there. It's what big brothers do, right? I'd tell myself that as I wrote another check, dust still clinging to my boots from a 12-hour shift. I can still picture those nights in my old apartment, the one with the sagging couch and chipped coffee table. Jake would sprawl out, cracking open a beer I'd paid for, his grin wide as he spun tales about his latest scheme. A car wash, a vape shop, whatever. This one's it, Mark, he'd say, eyes bright. I'll pay you back double. I'd laugh, the smell of sawdust and sweat still on me, and hand him another bottle. You'd better, I'd tease, half believing him. Those were good days, loud with hope and the clink of glass. The kind you don't realize are fragile until they're gone. Then the accident hit. A scaffold buckled under me on a windy March day, dropping me 20 feet onto concrete. My legs never been the same. Shattered bones, a limp I can't shake. Disability checks barely cover the rent now, and the construction life I knew, done. Jake kept dreaming, though, his voice still full of promises over the phone. I'd listen, nodding, sending him what I could scrape together, even as my own world shrank. Back then, I thought we were a team that blood meant loyalty. I was proud to hold him up. But pride's a funny thing, it blinds you until the fall comes. After the accident, life turned into a grind I hadn't signed up for. The hospital bills stacked up faster than I could count. X-rays, surgeries, physical therapy that left me sweating through the pain just to hobble a few steps. My savings, built from years of hauling lumber and pouring concrete, bled dry. I sold my truck, traded my 2-bedroom apartment for a studio with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. Disability checks came, but they were a thin lifeline, barely enough for rent and groceries. Still, when Jake called, voice shaky, saying he was this close to making it, I'd dig into what little I had left and wire him cash. It was instinct, protecting him even if it meant skipping my own meds some months. Jake's latest brainstorm was a food truck. He pitched it like a gold mine. Burgers and fries, a neon sign, the works. I just need a boost, Mark, he said, promising it'd turn a profit fast. I sent him $5,000, every cent I'd scraped from an old savings bond. Weeks later, I asked how it was going. Oh, it's rolling, he said, casual as ever. Then I saw it parked downtown. Shiny? Sure, but with a custom paint job that screamed money pit. He'd blown my emergency repair cash on flash instead of function. The truck folded in 3 months, another flop in his endless string of failures. When I confronted him, he shrugged. Business is risky, man. My stomach twisted. Betrayal stung worse than the lie itself. But I let it slide, too tired to fight. The days blurred into a haze of pain and bills. Mornings, I'd limp to the kitchen, brew cheap coffee, and stare at the numbers on my bank app, willing them to stretch. Nights, I'd sit with the TV on mute, wondering how I'd gone from lifting beams to lifting myself off a second-hand couch. Jake's calls got shorter, his excuses thinner. Busy, he'd say, or I'll hit you back. I'd nod to the empty room, guilt creeping in. Maybe I should have pushed him harder, taught him better. But I'd raised him when Mom couldn't, patched his scraped knees, paid his way. Wasn't that enough? Then the gaps widened. He stopped asking how I was holding up. Didn't notice I'd switched to a cheaper phone plan to save a few bucks. I text, "You good?" and get a "yeah, fine" hours later, if at all. It hit me slow. I was fading from his world. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of him on social media, grinning at some bar, a new jacket slung over his shoulder. My chest tightened, not jealousy, just a quiet ache. I'd given him my last $200 that week for groceries. And there he was, living it up. I told myself he'd come around, that he was just distracted. Family sticks together, right? But the weight kept piling on. My leg throbbed worse in the cold, a constant reminder of what I'd lost. I'd grit my teeth through therapy, picturing the old me. Strong, steady. The guy who didn't flinch at a 16-hour shift. Now I was the one flinching, wincing at every unexpected bill. Jake didn't see that. He didn't see me limping to the mailbox, praying for a check, or counting change for a loaf of bread. He was too busy chasing his next big break, leaving me to patch the holes in my own life. I tried to keep faith. Maybe his food truck flop was a lesson, I'd think, stirring instant noodles over a flickering stove. Maybe he'd figure it out, step up. But doubt gnawed at me, sharp and cold. I'd spent years being his rock, his safety net, hell, his damn ATM. Now, with my body broken and my bank account echoing, I wondered if he even saw me as a brother anymore, or just a crutch he could lean on till something better came along. I pushed the thought down, but it lingered, heavy as the brace on my leg. I didn't know it then, but the real break was coming. Not in my bones, but in us. Winter hit hard that year, and with it my world started to crack. The cold seeped into my leg, turning every step into a battle. I'd shuffle down the hall of my studio, gripping the wall, my breath fogging in the unheated air. Jake's calls had dwindled to nothing. Weeks would pass without a word. I'd stare at my phone, thumb hovering over his name, then set it down. He was out there, living while I was stuck counting pills to make it through the day. One night, the ice on my building steps caught me off guard. My bad leg buckled, and I went down hard, pain exploding up my spine. I fumbled for my phone, dialed Jake. It rang out to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," I rasped, voice tight. "Fell. Could use a hand." Hours later, he texted back, "Sorry, was busy. You okay?" Busy. That word burned. I dragged myself inside alone, bitterness settling in like frost. Then came the gut punch. I kept my old work tools in a lockbox under my bed. My hammer, level, a chipped chisel from my first job. They weren't worth much, but they were mine, pieces of the man I used to be. One day, I noticed the box was gone. My stomach dropped. I called Jake, voice steady but sharp. "You been in my place?" He hemmed and hawed, then admitted it. "Yeah, I took the tools. Pawned 'em. Thought you didn't need 'em anymore with your leg and all." I gripped the phone, knuckles white. "Those were mine, Jake. You didn't ask." His tone turned defensive. "Chill, man, it was like $50. I needed gas." $50. He traded my past for a tank of gas. Rage flared, hot, unfamiliar, but I swallowed it, hanging up before I said something I couldn't take back. The betrayal wasn't the cash. It was him thinking I wouldn't care. After that, our talks, if you could call them that, turned to ice. I call about a late repayment, some $300 he'd borrowed months back. "I'll get it to you," he'd snap, voice clipped, then dodge me for days. Once I pushed harder. "Jake, I'm barely scraping by. When's this getting it happening?" He sighed, loud and dramatic. "God, Mark, you're always on me. I'm working on stuff." Stuff. That was his life now, vague stuff that didn't include me. I'd hang up, staring at the cracked ceiling, feeling like a ghost in his orbit. The brother I'd carried was slipping away, and I couldn't tell if I was losing him or just seeing him clear for the first time. The silence grew heavier. I'd limp to the corner store, buy a coffee, and sit by the window, watching people hustle by. My mind would drift to Jake. Where was he? What was he chasing now? I'd given him so much money, time, faith, and he'd left me with echoes. One evening, I spotted a flyer for a community workshop, woodworking for beginners. My hands itched to hold a tool again, to build something, anything. I signed up, paid the $20 fee with my last spare cash. The first class, I carved a shaky wooden block, my leg propped on a stool. It wasn't much, but it felt like a spark, a piece of me waking up. I didn't tell Jake. He didn't ask. Still, I couldn't shake him. Late at night, I'd lie awake, the hum of the radiator my only company, and wonder what I'd done wrong. Had I enabled him too long? Should I have cut him off sooner? Guilt wrestled with anger. Anger at him, at myself. He'd taken my tools, my trust, and left me to pick up the pieces. The pawnshop sting lingered, a quiet wound. I'd built my life around being the strong one, the fixer, but now I was the one breaking. I didn't know how to stop it, didn't know if I could. All I knew was the ache in my chest was growing, and Jake wasn't there to see it. Maybe he never had been. Thanksgiving rolled around, and Mom insisted on hosting, same as always. I wasn't thrilled. My leg ached worse in the damp November chill, and Jake hadn't called in weeks. But I went anyway, hobbling up her porch steps with a store-bought pie. The house smelled of turkey and cinnamon, warm and familiar, a flicker of the old days. Relatives buzzed around, cousins chasing kids, Uncle Ray cracking bad jokes. I settled into a corner chair, nursing a coffee, trying to blend into the noise. Then the front door banged open, and Jake strutted in, late as usual. He looked different. Sharp leather jacket, new boots, a swagger I didn't recognize. Heads turned, and he grinned, soaking it in. "Big news, everybody," he announced, voice booming. "I won the lottery. $3 million. The room erupted, cheers, gasps, claps on the back. My heart jumped. $3 million. Maybe he'd toss some my way, ease the strain. I caught his eye, offered a small smile. He didn't smile back. Dinner was a blur of chatter. Lottery talk drowned out the mashed potatoes. Jake held court at the table, spinning plans. A condo, a boat, some investment he'd figure out later. I stayed quiet, picking at my plate, waiting for a moment to pull him aside. When the pie came out, I limped over, pie slice in hand. "Hey, congrats, man," I said, keeping it light. "That's huge." He leaned back, smirking, then stood, towering over me. The room hushed. "Yeah, it is," he said, loud enough for everyone. "And from now on, I don't want a freeloader in my life. You're a burden, Mark, beneath me." The words hit like a sledgehammer. My face burned, coffee mug trembling in my grip. Mom froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Aunt Lisa gasped. Jake just stared, cold and smug, daring me to react. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Humiliation choked me. I set the mug down, hands shaking, and limped to the door, the silence behind me deafening. Outside, the air stung my lungs. I leaned against the porch rail, chest tight, replaying it. Burden. Beneath him. After all I'd given, years, money, my damn soul. He'd gutted me in front of everyone. Rage boiled up, but something worse sank in. He meant it. I'd been kidding myself, thinking he'd ever see me as more than a cash machine. I yanked my coat tighter, started down the steps, then stopped. A cousin's voice drifted out, Jake laughing, bragging. "Oh, get this," he said. "That winning ticket? Bought it with Mark's last $50. Told him it was for rent. Smart move. Huh." My blood ran cold. That $50, I'd sent it 2 months back, wired it when he'd begged, said he'd be evicted without it. He'd lied, gambled it, and won. Now he was rubbing it in my face. The second betrayal sliced deeper than the first, a knife twisted with glee. I clenched my fists, nails biting my palms, fury and hurt warring inside me. I made it to my car, slid in, and slammed the door. The engine sputtered to life, but I just sat there, staring at the dashboard. $3 million built on my dime, and he'd turned it into a weapon. My mind raced. Every late-night call I'd answered, every dollar I'd stretched to keep him afloat. I'd been his backbone, and he'd snapped it without a flinch. The tools he'd pawned were bad enough, but this, stealing my money, winning big, then spitting on me, it was a new level of cruel. I thought of Mom's face, pale and stunned, and the relatives' awkward stares. They'd seen it all, heard him call me trash. Shame gnawed at me, but under it, something hardened. I wasn't trash. I wasn't done. Driving home, the streetlights blurred through a haze of anger. My studio loomed ahead, small and shabby, but mine. I parked, limped inside, and sank onto the couch, the quiet pressing in. Jake's voice echoed, "Freeloader, burden," and I let it fuel me. He thought he'd won, thought his money made him king. But I'd survived worse than him. Scaffolds, surgeries, nights with nothing but grit. I grabbed a notepad, started scribbling. That $50, the years of checks, every cent I'd sent. It wasn't just hurt driving me now, it was justice. He'd taken my money, my pride, my family's respect. I'd take something back. I didn't know how yet, but I'd fight. For once, this wasn't about saving him. It was about saving me. The days after Thanksgiving were a fog of fury and clarity. Jake's words, "Freeloader, burden," looped in my head, but that $50 he'd swiped for his winning ticket lit a fire. I wasn't just some chump he could kick aside. I'd given him everything, decades of sweat, cash, trust, and he'd turned it into a throne to sneer from. No more. I dug through my desk, pulled out bank statements, old texts, anything proving how much I'd funneled his way. 30 grand over 10 years, maybe more. That $50 was mine, and so was a piece of his jackpot. I needed help, though, someone who knew the law. I called a friend from the workshop, Tom, who'd mentioned a lawyer cousin. "Ms. Carter's sharp," he said. "She'll hear you out." I dialed her that afternoon, voice steady despite the knot in my gut. "My brother won $3 million with my money," I told her. "And now he's cut me off." She didn't flinch. "Bring what you've got. We'll see." Miss Carter's office was a cramped room above a deli, smelling of coffee and paper. I limped in, handed over my stack, receipts, wire transfers, even a screenshot of Jake's rent plea. She flipped through it, glasses perched on her nose. "You've got a case," she said, tapping the $50 transfer. "It's your money, ties you to the winnings. And this history shows you've been his lifeline." My chest loosened a fraction. Hope, real hope. "So what's next?" I asked. "We file a claim," she said, scribbling notes. "Prove it's a shared asset, not just his luck. Courts are shot." I nodded, the weight of it sinking in. This wasn't a handout I was after. It was mine, earned through years of sacrifice. I left her office lighter, the ache in my leg dulled by purpose. Prep took weeks. I scoured my records, pieced together every loan, every late-night emergency Jake had milked me for. Miss Carter drilled me on details, dates, amounts, his promises to pay back. "Be clear, Mark," she said. "Emotion sways, but facts win." I practiced in my studio, pacing with my cane, voice firm. The woodworking class kept me sane. Shaping a rough plank into a shelf, sanding it smooth. It was control, something Jake couldn't touch. Nights, I'd lie awake, picturing his smirk at Mom's table, the relatives' stares. Anger flared, but I channeled it. He'd humiliated me, stolen from me. I'd show him I wasn't beneath anyone. Court day came fast. I dressed in my old work jacket, faded but clean, limped into the courthouse, Miss Carter at my side. Jake sat across the room, slick in a new suit, his lawyer whispering in his ear. He caught my eye, smirked like it was a game. My stomach twisted, but I straightened up, cane tapping the floor. The judge, a gray-haired guy with a no-nonsense frown, called us up. Miss Carter went first, voice crisp. "Mr. Evans supported his brother for years, over $30,000. The winning ticket was bought with his 50, a direct link." She laid out the evidence, calm and brutal, painting Jake as the leech he'd become. His lawyer countered, all swagger. "It's a lottery win, pure chance. Mark's got no claim. Jake's name's on the ticket." Miss Carter didn't blink. "Chance doesn't erase theft. That 50 was Mark's, and the pattern shows reliance." Then it was my turn. I took the stand, swore in, my palms sweaty. "Tell us about your support," Miss Carter asked. I took a breath, looked at the judge. "I've been there for Jake since we were kids. Paid his rent, his bills, his dreams, 30 grand, maybe more. That 50? He said it was for rent, not a ticket." I trusted him. My voice held, stronger than I'd expected. Jake's lawyer crossed me, smirking. "You gave it freely, right? No contract." I met his gaze. I gave it 'cause he's my brother, not 'cause I'm a bank. He lied about what it was for. The room felt heavy, Jake's stare boring into me. I didn't look back. I'd said my piece. Jake went next. He leaned into the mic, casual as ever. Yeah, Mark helped me out, but that 50? Just luck I turned it into something. I don't owe him. His lawyer prodded. What did you plan with the money? Jake shrugged. Live better. He's always been jealous, holding me back. Jealous. The word stung, but I kept still. Miss Carter pounced. So you admit the 50 was his, and you misled him? Jake faltered. Mumbled. It's not like that. She pressed, and he squirmed, his cool cracking. The judge scribbled. Face unreadable. I sat back, heart pounding, relief and nerves tangling up. For once, I wasn't just taking it, I was fighting. We wrapped, and the judge called a recess. I stepped outside, leaned on a bench, the cold biting my leg. Miss Carter nodded. You did good. It's in his hands now. I exhaled, watching my breath cloud. Jake's glare lingered in my mind, but I felt taller, steadier. I'd laid it bare. My work, my loss, my right. Whatever came next, I'd stood up. The courtroom had stripped away his power, at least for a moment, and I'd claimed mine. The judge's gavel fell like a thunderclap. Based on the evidence, he said, voice steady, I award Mr. Mark Evans half the lottery winnings, $1.5 million, as compensation for his financial contributions. My breath caught, relief flooding me. Jake's jaw dropped, his suit suddenly looking too big for him. Mom sat stone-faced, eyes down. Miss Carter squeezed my arm, a rare smile breaking through. I'd won. Not just money, but proof I wasn't nothing. Court adjourned, and I limped out, head high, cane tapping a rhythm of triumph. Jake didn't look at me, just stormed off with his lawyer, the swagger gone. Word trickled back fast. Jake blew his $1.5 million in months. A glitzy nightclub that tanked, a red sports car he crashed. Debt collectors circled, and he called me one night, voice desperate. Mark, I'm drowning. Help me out. I stood in my new kitchen, modest mine, wood shavings on the counter from my workshop. No, Jake, I said calm. You made your bed. He cursed, hung up. I felt no guilt, just quiet freedom. I'd bought a small house, started a carpentry side gig. My legs still ached, but I was building again. Shelves, a life. Looking back, Jake's betrayal broke me open, but it built me stronger. Here's the lesson, 200 words of truth I've earned. Trust is precious, but it's not a blank check. I gave Jake my all, money, years, heart, thinking family meant forever. He took it, twisted it, taught me you can't carry someone who won't walk themselves. Real wealth isn't cash. It's integrity, the kind I found fighting for what was mine. Don't let loyalty blind you, value yourself first, not just others' promises. I lost a brother, but I gained me, and that's worth more than any jackpot. Thank you for watching the video. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts below. Your like may seem small, but it gives me the strength to keep creating every single day. See you in the next video.